Greetings and blessings, whenever and wherever. My brothers and sisters in Christ, and fellow survivors of suicide, loss, and attempt. I am Brandy Johnson, ordained minister and fellow survivor of loss. As always, I want to say thank you to everybody who listens in, because doing new things like this, no matter what it is, it takes a lot of courage. And it means a lot to have your support, whether you've been directly affected by suicide or not. Because knowing that my efforts and that these efforts are supported by a caring community makes a huge difference in continuing the fight to break the stigma and openly talk about suicide. All right, guys, I have a few topics to talk about today. But first, I apologize, because it has been a couple weeks following my last episode. I care for many causes. Many of them are connected to mental health, which is of the utmost importance when we're talking about suicide. In caring for many causes, I am also a co-founder of Caring Cousins, alongside my cousin Amber of Kaylee's Dad is Mad, which you've probably heard me mention. The idea of Caring Cousins began just because my cousin and I were working to fill a need in the outreach of homelessness. And I want to give credit here because my cousin and her daughters inspired me, in combination with RJ's Bible Bucks, which is a Bible program that I began following the death of my brother-in-law, who had a mental health episode and sadly was shot and killed by the police in a rural town in Missouri, south of Kansas City. So we combined our two ideas. My cousin was handing out hygiene items, blankets, things like that, and I was able to add the Bibles to go with what they have been handing out. From the combination of these two causes and ideas, we are now working to become a legitimate nonprofit organization under the title of Caring Cousins. Under the umbrella of Caring Cousins, we will house Kaylee's Dad is Mad, and this group, Just More Than Survivors of Suicide Kansas City, in addition to RJ's Bible Bucks, and what will one day hopefully be the Troost Avenue Christian Temple and the Troost Avenue Christian Teams Faithful Urban Lifeline. These are missions that have been instilled in our heart from God, and currently I am helping my own church, Community Praise, Worship, and World Outreach Center, that has invited me into the fold and made me a church and a family member. But one day I do hope to physically build a location where all the activities and administration for Caring Cousins can take place in the Kansas City area. My cousin lives in Topeka, Kansas, and has a base of her own. But again, from these causes that began with movements that God placed on our hearts, we are now able to develop further into the causes that have affected our lives. We have taken, my apologies, we have taken these tragedies, both of us losing children, both of us losing daughters, both from two different causes. But from these tragedies, we want to turn them into purposes so that other people don't feel the same pain. And those that do feel this pain can be supported by a community of loving and caring individuals. But we also don't want to overlook our primary mission, one of which has been mental health and, of course, homelessness. We also don't want to overlook keeping God first in everything that we do, because without God, we would be hopeless. And it is because of God that we are able to find the beauty in the ashes. But all of our causes are affected by the mental health factor. Homelessness, drug addiction, fentanyl poisoning, suicide. Did I mention homelessness already? All of these things lead back to mental health. That's why mental health education is so important and why I'm stressing this today. In light of recent events here in Kansas City, at the Chiefs rally on February 14th, following their back-to-back Super Bowl win at Super Bowl 58, one out of almost 1 million people getting into an argument with another person injured 23 people, over half of them children, and also took the life of one very popular Tejano, DJ Lisa Galvin. Mi corazón es con la familia de esa señora y los hijos también. She was loved by her family and by her community. And so today I'm sending out an SOS. An SOS, people, for mental health education. Because what I've heard so far, what I have heard is gun control, which is already an accelerated topic linked directly to suicide, but also as the number one method in which somebody can take their own life and the life of other people. Gun control is a issue that affects the suicide community, but it is second to hanging and intentional self-poisoning. And I mention this because often methods of suicide are considered very taboo. And we don't want to glorify the wrong things. But when we think about suicide itself and self-injury due to gun violence on one's own self as number one of the leading causes, but then we look at these other causes, we have to take into account, how do we target the cause? And how do we help stop this from happening in the future? Not just in open public locations, but for people who have considered this suicidal ideation and are deciding to take their own lives. So gun control is an issue in general. And again, it is directly linked to suicide. My own biological mother shot herself twice. And again, I don't say it to glorify it, but I want to bring attention to the fact that my mother had mental health issues. And then she had access to a gun. But what happened in Kansas City is also a mental health issue that needs to be addressed on a wider scale in order to stop the violence. Today I also want to pray for the family who lost their mother, their sister, their wife, their aunt, their daughter, their cousin. They lost someone who is very special to them. And I pray that the Lord will comfort them in their time of grief, and that they can be assured through God's word that because she knew him, she rests in his arms. And it's so sad to lose somebody. And it's also so important for each and every one of us that has lost someone, no matter the method or the reason, to point out that mental health is also connected to our grief. One of our local churches is offering free counseling, and I think there are other locations offering the same type of outreach on a regular basis, and are also now reaching out to families and to victims of anyone who was present at the rally to give them that mental health help support. So no matter how we look at it from beginning to end, mental health is a huge factor in the events that played out at the Chiefs rally. And I actually mentioned this, I think, on Facebook earlier, because we have to stop and think about mental health. What was the mental status of the young people who committed these atrocious acts? Why would they think that it's appropriate to carry these type of weapons? and to respond to a heated argument this way. We have to stop and think about where they were in their minds for them to think that this was appropriate behavior, that it's okay to walk around with weapons of mass destruction. And more so, we have to think about the environment that they grew up in and the nature and nurture that they received before they got to a point where they are shooting in a crowd of over 800,000 people without thinking twice about the lives that are at risk. They weren't considering their own safety, much less anybody else's safety. And so it's a huge sign. We don't just need gun control. We need to get to the root of the problem. We need to get to the mental health factors that led up to this. You know, it's not just about, hey, I grew up poor, or hey, I didn't think my parents loved me, or hey, I wanted to be accepted. All of this leads back to mental health. We have socioeconomic issues that we blame stuff on. Just because we grow up in the projects don't mean we got to go out here killing other people. But when we grow up in certain environments, it affects us mentally. So when we have events like this and people commit these heinous acts and we're trying to wrap our head around it, we have to go back to the author. We have to go back to the people that did these things, and we have to think to ourselves, what led up to this? Where were they at in their minds? Were they mentally stable? Did they have underlying mental health issues? Did they grow up in a bad environment that dismantled their self-worth? Were they accepted by friends and family? Or did they find acceptance around the wrong crowds? What led up to this is a mental health issue. And I'll stand behind that every step of the way. Then we can get to the issue of gun control itself, because these probably were not legal guns. So at some point in time, these people had access to weapons illegally with mental instabilities. But before we get too far off track, you guys, this is my SOS for mental health education, which is also important when we're talking about the subject of suicide. When we talk about, again, mental health, and we talk about suicide, and we talk about these socioeconomic issues, I also want to remind us that this is Black History Month. And AFSP is running a special program, some special videos, some special education to help inform communities about suicide in the African American culture. It's important to address the issue of suicide within all cultures. Some of us have cultural norms that maybe suppresses the things that we're supposed to talk about, or maybe we have a certain type of pride in our culture and certain actions in our culture, and we're expected to say certain things or withhold certain things, or our culture expects us to act a certain way, you know, just to be cool. But when we're trying to be cool, we're also seeking acceptance in our culture. But again, when we're expected to have these certain types of actions and behave a certain way because of cultural stigmas, we have to break those stigmas. So I am really glad to see the AFSP touching on this topic, because they already have a Latino and an LGBTQ awareness program regarding suicide, but introducing African American awareness to suicide within the culture gives us a broader perspective on how we address these issues so that it's a relatable topic for all people. It is very helpful when people can relate, because they become more open, we become more open, we become more willing to receive and maybe understand. And then we're able not only to help ourselves, but we're able to better help someone else who can relate to whatever the struggle may be. In a previous episode, I think it's episode number 2 off the top of my head, I gave information about statistics surrounding suicide titled Statistically Speaking. A lot of those statistics were focused on white males. As a matter of fact, all of them were, as I read them off. And I noticed this. And I thought to myself, these statistics, they don't show the full view. And it's because statistics like this are hard to populate. Not all of the methods of gathering the data are the same. So when we're calculating statistical data, determining the specifics gets really difficult when we have to do a cultural breakdown. And I know this because I took a class recently on research and statistics. And if we don't account for all the variables, then we can skew the results. We can make the problem either look worse or look better. In the case of suicide, it doesn't seem that it's getting any better because the numbers are still rising, and especially in the African American community. But because we don't have as many statistics as we should on the subject, it is another reason why it is so important for us to dig into our cultural communities and learn what these true numbers are. It will help us identify where we need to strengthen the mission and give support for those at risk for suicide. Something I also wanted to point out regarding statistics is the number of suicide attempts. They say that every 40 seconds someone dies by suicide. But that does not include the number of people who have attempted or even thought about suicide. 1.7 million people per year make an attempt. And I am pointing this out because I have knowledge. Working with my cousin Amber from Kaylee's Dad is Mad, I have learned some of these statistics about fentanyl poisoning. And it's more than enough. But fentanyl itself is more than enough to overflow both the Chiefs and the Royal stadiums. But suicide attempts outnumber fentanyl poisonings. And this is a drastic comparison. But it's mainly to bring your attention to the fact that there are so many people out there who battle not only with suicidal ideation and self-harm, but also mental health issues that lead to these suicide attempts. I didn't expect these numbers to be as high as they are, for either cause, honestly. Because these are quantitative numbers. These are numbers that are bigger than what we can even wrap our head around. It's more than what we can count on our fingers and toes, you guys. But you know what I didn't expect? And my apologies. What we expect as human beings isn't always reality. And sometimes our expectations can fail us. So this brings me to another important point, which is our expectations. It's part of psychology because, again, as human beings, sometimes our expectations don't line up with reality. Now, I'm not saying that we lower the bar just because we never want to expect more than what we think might happen. But what I'm saying is that we have to take a self-reflection on our own expectations to help check ourselves before we wreck ourselves. Now, I'm old school. You'll hear me say that a lot. You got to check yourself before you wreck yourself. And we got to take a self-reflection on our own expectations. We can get hyper-focused on something and expect it to be the greatest, happiest thing in our life. And then when it lets us down, it's the lowest low we ever experience. And I think that many times our expectations in life, they can cause depression. They can cause all these thoughts to come into our head that make us doubt our self-worth. It can make us lose our self-transcendence. And it can crumble our foundation beneath of us, which are our basic needs of stability and acceptance. So we have to make these self-reflections regularly and adjust our expectations. And it's because we want our expectations to be reality-based. But let's say we expect somebody to know how we feel, but that person has no clue or idea because we have gave them no signs. I mean, nobody out there is truly psychic. I'm sorry to everybody out there who thinks they're psychic. You are not psychic. My apologies. I'll give you a special episode on that one, but you'll have to find it on my ministry page. But in the meantime, it's one of the reasons why it's so important to speak out. Because other people may not know how we feel. We might expect them to know we feel this way. We might think we've given them all the signs that they need, but unless we actually say, hey, I don't feel okay, we really cannot expect somebody to know what's going on if we don't tell them. And I really can't stress this enough. Again, it's just one of the reasons why it's so important to speak out, to find somebody to talk to. Because again, we can't expect somebody to know what's going on inside of us if we're not willing to share a part of that. And in some cases, our expectations will tell us, oh, you can't tell them. You have to be afraid. They're going to judge you. And now that's a bad expectation. Expecting that a person is going to judge us for opening up about our mental health can cause us more harm than help. It's also another reason why we have to break the stigma against mental health and against suicide. So for those of us that are advocates, it's also important for us to let people know, hey, you can open up to me. Because we can't just expect people to open up if they don't know we're willing to listen. Or if we don't tell them, hey, I'm not going to be judgmental. Because we never know who might want to open up to us, and they just might be afraid. So really, these expectations can work both ways. And when we expect that somebody is going to listen to us because they've said, hey, I'm here, I can talk, I want to know what's going on with you, then it makes us more willing to be able to say, hey, I'm having that bad day. And for those of us that are asking for people to talk to us, we might expect them to speak up right away. But in reality, it may take them a little longer. So we also have to expect to be patient. We have to expect to stay by their side. And we have to expect that we're going to need to be diligent in our efforts, because we never know who might be expecting for us to listen to them. Now, I'm not sure if any of this is what you expected to hear today, but with so much going on and so many topics to cover at one time, I just wanted to point out how mental health is at the center of all of this. It's an extremely important issue because mental health at its core is health. Our mental health can affect our physical well-being. So we have to take care of ourselves mentally, as well as physically and spiritually. And we also have to be educated, not only to know the signs, but to know the methods and the ways that we can help other people know that someone out there cares about them and that we're willing to listen to them in those moments of crisis. We need to know the right steps to take. So today I have 5 steps that you can take, which are known to help. And I did find this online. I'm sorry because it's a podcast, I'm not able to show you the photo. But it is from BeThe1To.com. That's BETHE, the number 1, TO.com. And I will share the link in the bio or the comments. It says, 1, ask. You can ask someone, are you feeling okay today? Are you thinking about suicide? How do you hurt? That's a question there that I think some of us are afraid to answer from time to time. But we can ask somebody, how can I help? So step number 1 is ask. Ask somebody. Number 2 is be there in person or on the phone. Show support, listen, and keep your promises to connect. Keep your promise to connect. You have to follow up with people. And if you do make that promise, make sure that you make that connection. Number 3, help keep them safe. If the person in crisis is suicidal, details matter. Do they have a plan or ideas about timing or method? You can also call 988 to give them support during their crisis. This is what we call crisis care. Also, number 4, you can help them connect when someone is in crisis. So connecting with them through ongoing support can help establish a safety net. Remind them that they can call, text, or chat with 988 to connect with a trained crisis counselor 24/7. 5, you got to follow up after the immediate crisis. When it's over, it's not over. You need to check in, and you need to call or text that person afterwards, because it does make a difference. So we're definitely directing people to call the 988 crisis line. You do not have to be the one in crisis. The 988 line will also help you walk somebody through a crisis and possibly save their life. I cannot stress this enough. This mental help for mental health is extremely important. And if you are in crisis, I urge you to reach out to someone. Even if you have someone to reach out to, or if you don't, feel free to reach out to me, because I do have time to talk. But no matter what, make sure that you contact somebody. Send an SOS so that we can help in your time of need. There is also the National Suicide Crisis Hotline at 1-800-273-TALK or 8255. There is 741-741 Talk to Text line. And we also have the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration at 1-800-662-HELP or 4357. But whatever you do, please reach out to someone today, because your life matters. Someone out there loves you, even if you think they don't. And even if we don't know you, we love you. We don't want to lose you, because we need you in this fight. And just remember, I have time to talk, so please stay. Please stay. Thank you guys, as always, again, for listening, for sharing, and for showing your support to this podcast. By doing so, I pray that you have also made a difference. And I do know, as I've said every single time, it makes a difference to me. So I hope it does to you as well. And I hope to continue making a difference in breaking the stigma that surrounds suicide by openly speaking and talking about it. If you have a story out there that you would like to share, please let me know. Please reach out and we can schedule a time to talk, a time to be the voice. And I really appreciate, again, each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart. Take care of your mental health. Take care of your physical health. Take care of your spiritual health. But don't forget to talk to someone if you're in crisis. Until next time, guys, and as always, whenever and wherever, God bless.